Now let's be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever sometimes you do reviews or videos that really show you off to be nothing more than just an angry nerd that likes to talk shit about music that sucks, well, you wouldn't exactly expect people to give you their stuff, to give you their music, and expect it to be, well, a good review. But, hey, surprisingly enough, it does happen. In fact, on my old account, the band Balisette, which was a loosely based product of, or offshoot, should I say, of Model of the Well, sent me his CD, and it ended up being really good, so it was something I was more than willing to do. Not to mention an album review that I will be uploading directly after this one. So it happened again, and this one actually came all the way from the United Kingdom, and Sanhedrin is actually the name of the band, and Salvation Through Sin is the name of the album. And this was something that was released back last November. And I have to thank the guys for personally sending me the CD. This is something that took about a month to get here and had to go through customs. Well, whenever I went to pick it up, the first thing the guy said was, "What are you getting from customs?" Well, typically I tend to avoid a lot of this stuff because there's a lot of unoriginality that's abound, and there's typically not very much that can be said that, well, can't be said about any other local band or a band that's just starting up. With Sanhedrin, though, it's a little bit different. In fact, it's, well, majorly different. This is blackened death metal that actually has a little bit of an identity, and it's really damn good, I have to say. This is probably one of the best releases that I've gotten that is not something that I've ordered from a store or something. That, you know, one of those best releases that I've gotten from a website or, you know, from directly speaking to the band. And Balisette is definitely high on that list as well because that music is just mind-blowing. But it's a completely different type of music. It's a completely different type of metal. So there's definitely a little bit of a difference, even though the parallel seems there. Blackened death metal is definitely a style where you can see a little bit of evolution occurring with a lot of use of symphonics. However, it's something that, if too many bands do it, it kind of becomes a little bit droll and overused. However, with Sanhedrin, they actually use a very fresh take on it. It's not something where it dominates each and every song. It's something that they mainly use on their instrumentals, such as Unrestrained Soul of Leviathan, or A Deceptive Dreamlike State, Utterly Bereft of Life, things like that. There's a total of 4 of those on this particular album, and since it's an 11-track affair, that means that there's 7 actual cuts on this particular release that aren't instrumentals. And you know what? That's actually alright. What this does is it actually shortens the length of the album a little bit, and it doesn't overstay its welcome, which is definitely a positive thing. Now, typically, whenever I hear bands that haven't been signed to a label yet in this particular genre, either that or they're on a kind of lower-end label, there tends to be a lot of things that are wrong. There's a lot of timing issues that are off, and there's just little things that will pester you and bother you. And I'll be honest, whenever I first listened to Sanhedrin's Salvation Through Sin, I was almost looking for it. And, well, I didn't find very much. And that's kind of a good thing. I'll be honest. This is a band that I think that if you are a record label and you're watching this review, either that or you're checking out the link to their page here on YouTube right below here, you should definitely consider giving them another look because this is really good stuff. Like I said, the symphonics usage is down to the minimum, and it's something that they only kind of dish out whenever they want to, and it's not exactly all that often unless it really fits the song, which whenever they use it, it definitely does. This is something where they use all of their different body of skills in a very productive way, and that's something that's very difficult sometimes for local bands to avoid doing or, you know, do very well. Most of the time they want to show off all the different tricks that they can use in Pro Tools or whatever that they're using, and, you know, kind of just show that they have a lot of style and they can make it sound as professional as possible, even though a lot of it is, well, not. The music is extremely tight and the riffing is absolutely fantastic. This is something that's a very big positive factor on this particular album. Most of the time with bands like this, if it's something that's underground, you're going to hear a lot of monotonous riffing, stuff that, well, you've heard before. Either that or stuff that doesn't exactly capture your imagination. However, with Sanhedrin, it all is in the song at very apt points, and it's all done very intelligently. Now, the one thing about this that really set me off was in track number 4, which is entitled The Holy Sons 2, The Fields of Academia. I actually thought that something had happened with the recording. The first couple of seconds of this recording sounded as though it was an early demo, or either that, they decided to record it from halfway across the room with their amps turned all the way down to 2. Well, this was something that was planned because it soars right into the song. It's one of those neat little effects that you can do in production. And after realizing that this was not a mistake, it actually fits quite well, considering it sort of serves as a gap bridger between the Holy Sons Part 1, which is in Gardens of Gethsemane, to Holy Sons Part 2. And the whole thing is essentially talking about the last days of Christ and the temptation and ultimate betrayal by Judas. In fact, there seems to be a lot of that on this particular record, a lot of references to Christianity. But then again, whenever you take a look at the cover, which you could probably barely see, well, you see a nice large pentagram there in the center. You see Lucifer, Satan, or the demon on the left, and you see a crucified Christ on the right. It's a really interesting cover, and it's actually very well made. Everything about this is actually really well made. The one thing that I have to say about this particular release, the professionalism, not to mention the depth and the intricacy of details that these guys were able to put into their work, it's better than most local bands that I've seen, not to mention better than some lower-end budget bands. I mean, whenever you consider exactly what they're doing with blackened death metal, well, you've all seen the covers, you've all seen the packaging, you've all heard the music. There's definitely a little bit of a monotony to it. But with Sanhedrin, that's definitely avoided. Now, on their particular YouTube channel, they actually have a teaser sampler to this particular CD, Salvation Through Sin. It's actually their featured video, and you should go check it out. The one thing about it is that these samples, well, one thing that a lot of bands get into the habit of doing is focusing in on the best points of their song whenever they do their samples. And while this definitely shows and spotlights some highlights, the whole song is actually very strong as well. It shows off the impressive riffing on certain songs, not to mention also shows the dynamic vocal structure that they're able to incorporate. And it's not dynamic in my typical sense where I'm saying he's able to go to a crushing high, or should I say a crushing low to a soaring high. No, instead it's the way it's represented. It's the tonal sense, not to mention the way that it doesn't always have to blend in with the background. One thing that I always said about Ozzy Osbourne, especially in the Black Sabbath era material, was that he tended to mirror the guitar line with his vocals, which is something that is kind of basic, but it worked for him. With this particular group, you don't have to do that. I at first initially thought that that's exactly what was going to happen, because track number 2, Now I See the Truth, on the verses, it does really resemble this to a T, to be honest. However, it's after repeated listens that you start to understand that that's exactly what the point was. This is something where it's direct, it's straight to the point and straight into your face. And that's what you really need on this particular song, because it makes the chorus all the more memorable. And that's exactly the point. The chorus is extremely memorable in this song, and not to mention, it keeps you going forward. It keeps you wanting to listen to this record and see what more lies within it. There's a lot of little dark and deceptive secrets in here. You hear that little symphonic element that sometimes will remind you of a band like Dimmu Borgir or something like that. But whenever Sanhedrin does it, it's not over the top. It's not something that's absolutely crazy or insane. To me, it actually reminds me a little bit more of Vesperian and Sorrow, and I think it's more of the tone that they use, the key and everything like that. I don't know exactly what it is, but whenever I hear this, I just think Vesperian and Sorrow. Overall, I gotta say, this is a really strong release. I mean, I can't find very much to complain about on here, aside from, the little basic things that is probably just my ear deceiving me. This band is definitely one where if they continue to practice and continue to record and release more music, their sound's only going to get even tighter, and that's something that's really promising, considering this is typically a genre that can sometimes, like I said, get a little monotonous. This is really kind of a bright spot in the future of this particular genre. So overall, I have to give this release a solid 8 out of 10. I mean, 11 tracks, sometimes that can seem a little over-ambitious, but whenever you consider what's packaged within here, and also whenever you listen to the music, good stuff. So to all the guys in Sanhedrin from all the way in the United Kingdom, from the guy in which I spoke to, and the rest of you bandmates, continue doing what you're doing, because you're doing it mighty damn well. Now to all of you who are just watching this video thinking it's just another Cover Killer review, your homework assignment is to check these guys out. Like I said, I just linked you to their YouTube channel down in the description box, and I think you should definitely do whatever you can to pick up a copy of this release and check it out for yourself. Watch all their videos and drop them a subscription. This is definitely a band that deserves it, and they deserve a lot more attention. And hopefully by doing that, doing this review and you guys watching this review, that'll happen. If you happen to be a fan of this band that's watching on either their Facebook or their MySpace page, then be proud that you're a fan of this band and tell your friends, because this is definitely one that deserves to take off. I give these guys a lot of credit for their professionalism. Not to mention, the guy was going to send me a second copy if the first one never showed up. In fact, a day before it showed up, he was contemplating it and decided against it. Decided to wait one more day, and, well, lo and behold, my copy showed. So, hey, this guy is willing to do this. These guys are willing to ship it out to everybody, and they're willing to get the music out to the public, and that's something that really is the mark of a very passionate band, and that's something that we definitely need in the scene today. So guys, great work. Fans, keep up the good work, not to mention continue to spread the word. That's what I'm doing by reviewing this album, Salvation Through Sin by Sanhedrin. This is coverkillernation saying, sometimes stuff that you can't find in stores, and sometimes stuff that you just hear about from some dude on YouTube can be better than some of the shit that's actually out there today. Watch my review for results may vary, and chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water, and you'll understand what I mean. Because this album, this album basically pukes all over that, and then pisses on it, and then laughs at it. Take care, guys.